Your plans? Today it's dinner with the parents at your spot.
We gotta come back here.
Now, their spot. Or you're on the edge of your seat at the game.
Come on, just one time.
And it's the one. Or maybe you're catching the next flight to...
Now boarding flight 1850.
Oh, that's you. The choice is yours. And when you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.
Hey, it's Christine with Storyworthy. Today on the show, television writer Michael Jamin talks about the ghost that saved him.
One day my boss asked I would house sit for her, and she had a beautiful English tutor. And these English tutors are, they're dark inside, they're creepy, they're beautiful, but it's a little scary inside. Then I see it. There was a dark shadow slowly moving up the staircase. And the blood drained from me. And it was not like I just missed it. No, I watched it. I watched as it kind of just morphed its way up the staircase. And I was just dead inside.
Today on the show, television writer Michael Jamin talks about the ghost that saved him. Stay close.
Hey, it's Michael Jamin, and you're listening to Storyworthy.
Welcome to Storyworthy. My name is Christine Blackburn, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Whether you're a longtime fan of the show of over 11 years, or you're a brand new listener to Storyworthy, welcome to the show. Now, I hope you enjoyed the show last week, which had on it another writer, actually, Christine Kimmel. Christine Kimmel talked about working on a cruise ship. And I have been on a few cruises, but just a few. And I did not know this about cruise lines, but the people that work on them, you're either staff or crew. What do you think is worse, Michael?
That's a good question. The whole thing sounds terrible to me. Do I have to choose?
Well, no, I'm just saying, have you been on a cruise?
No, and I won't go. I don't want Legionnaire's disease.
Yeah.
That's the least of my worries, right?
Well,
I don't do well. Jews don't do well on boats or horses. We got no place on either.
Well, there are some cruise lines that are just undeniable and very, very high end. So, I hear what you're saying. Like, I'm not going out on a Carnival cruise line to Ensenada anytime soon. However, I have gone from Mumbai to Dubai.
Really?
Yeah, and that's pretty cool.
Well, that sounds high rent.
High rent, stopping in Oman and Abu Dhabi. And yeah, that was a different kind of cruise. My point is, the people that work on ships, and I learned this last week from Christine Kimmel, and you guys can go back and listen as well, but crew members are generally not Americans.
Right.
That's the first thing.
Yeah.
And they only get 2.5 hours of rest every 24 hours. I mean, they get about 5 hours of rest every 24 hours, but they don't get a nighttime of sleep. No.
That sounds awful.
It is awful because
they're in international. As long as you're in international waters, right. You can do whatever the hell you want.
No, that's very, very true. It's very true. So Christine goes through the day and how it works out, and sure enough, she only made it a week. Because Americans don't do well as crew. They do well as staff.
Yeah.
But not crew. So go back, you guys. Listen to Christine Kimmel. She's so sweet and a great girl and a really talented person as well. So go back, listen to that. But not today, because today I'm here with another really talented writer, television writer. Mm-hmm. His name is Michael Jamin, and he brings forth the topic, The Ghost That Saved Me. The Ghost That Saved Me. So that's intriguing. I'll say that. It's like he was a writer, like a writer came up with it. I don't know who, but The Ghost That Saved Me. So I'm very anxious to hear this. Let me just ask you, did you believe in ghosts before this ghost?
Absolutely not. No, I'm not that guy, but I believe in them now.
Is that a Jewish thing?
No, it's just I guess I'm just cynical and and I have a closed mind.
My boyfriend is Jewish. That's why I can say that, by the way. Happy Hanukkah, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you already have a night or celebrate something so far?
No, because my kids are still in college. So when they come home, we'll do it all. Yeah. They're far away.
Last year, I made my first latkes, and I got to tell you, that's a good potato.
Oh, good. Okay.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding? Oh,
Good.
so tasty, just ridiculous. And of course, I'm here in Los Angeles like you are, so you understand the climate in that there's so many talented people, so many talented comedians, and I don't know the reason, but a lot of them are Jewish.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. You know?
I mean, I don't know if it's the quick wit. I don't know where it all comes from, but I am not surprised that you are Jewish, and I am just really happy to have you on the show. We share a mutual friend. Her name is Peggy Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you known Peggy?
Oh, God, at least 20 years or more. Yeah,
How
long
about
time.
that?
Yeah.
Me too. Now, I met Peggy because we both taught improv traffic school together.
Oh, I didn't know she did that.
I am not kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we both did it. And I met her like in a training class to teach improv traffic school, which is like, I mean, you've got this audience and they're captive. So that's the good news.
Yeah, right.
But they're also not happy. They're not happy people. They don't understand why they're the ones getting pulled over and other people aren't getting pulled over. And when they all say that, because they always say that in the beginning of class, everybody's bitching and then I say to them, well, here's the thing, you guys, is that, and I say to them, how many people have been to traffic school before? And then 90% raise their hand.
Yeah.
And I say, you see, you guys, it's not that everybody speeds. It's not that everybody does the California roll. It's just that you guys do it and you keep doing it again and again and again.
Yeah.
90% of the people in traffic school are there for the.
Yeah, funny. Interesting.
Well, it's sort of interesting. I'm certainly glad I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah, I bet.
But that's where I met Peggy Kelly, and now she is an accomplished chaplain.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's an amazing woman.
You don't hear that every day. I'll
No,
tell you
you
that.
don't. The stuff she has to deal with on a daily basis is just amazing. She's a wonderfully spiritual person. She's amazing. She comes over usually for every Thanksgiving to, celebrate.
That's very
us.
nice.
Yeah.
Did she come this Thanksgiving?
No, because she was the hospital was so busy she couldn't get off. It was so jammed.
Yeah, she's been working a lot. She works at Cedar Sinai, and they have up to 30 babies there a day. She can have 7 deaths a day, just for her to deal with.
Yeah.
The whole hospital, who knows how many deaths, but like Peggy alone can have to visit all these different rooms. I don't know how she does it. She's just full of, I believe they call it grace. Michael, have you heard the word grace?
Could be. Yeah, it could be. It could be. People see her and then they die. I'm not saying there's a cause and effect, but I know that happens.
I think Peggy, because she's such, also, as we just said, she's a comedian as well. And I keep telling Peggy we should go into business together. It's going to be a hospice business, and it's called Die Laughing.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the name. So we come.
Not a lot of repeat customers, though.
But the family members, right? So we come by, not just cheering on. Yeah, we're cheering them on. No, not just entertaining, the ill person or the person on the way out, but we're entertaining the people in the room.
Right.
Die laughing.
There you go.
Stay with me.
Tap
Come
into
on.
that.
Yeah, either that or, at least we should be able to write a quick screenplay and you send it off to Adam Sandler. What's the problem?
Yeah, really. What's it? Yeah.
Speaking of writing screenplays, you are an accomplished podcaster with this show now it's a new show called Screenwriters Need to Hear This.
Right.
Screenwriters need to hear this. And each episode, you basically break it down what screenwriters need to hear.
Yeah.
I don't know if they want to hear these.
No, they don't want to hear. They need to hear. Right. Right.
It's definitely not what screenwriters want to hear.
Yeah, right.
But let me ask you, and I actually heard a couple of your episodes, and I think you did address this, but let me hear it again from you in person. Is it possible to be a screenwriter if you don't live in Los Angeles now for television? Can you do that now?
Well, because of COVID, yeah, you can. Like, we're doing this on Zoom a lot. But if you want to break in, like if you're, I can do it because I'm established here. But if you want to break into the business, you really need to be in LA,
Because it's the
Well, this is how but also this is Hollywood. Like if you want to make it in Hollywood, you need to come to Hollywood. And I think some people are under the impression well, can't I have Hollywood come to me? And well, I suppose, but you better offer Hollywood a hell of a lot more than everyone else is, because the people who really want to break in, they're here already and they're busting their ass to try to get in. And they've already taken the next step that you're not willing to take. I'm not saying it's not possible, but they got a huge leg up on you because they're willing to come here and meet and schmooze and network and break in as a production assistant or whatever. And
a lot of that is what it takes, because you need to build these relationships so that somebody will trust you. And then you need to come up with some of your own tricks that you can pull out when you need to meet with somebody. Like, I produced this gig. You want some space, or, you want some time on my show, or do you just have to have things to offer.
Right.
It's just not going to come to you. It has to be a give and take. And like you said, why would anybody read your script or anything about you unless you're at least willing to be in the city where I live or where I work? Yeah,
right. It's what you're willing to say. Everything has a price. And so the price you pay for whatever you want in life, it can either be regret or which is not trying, or sacrifice. And sacrifice means like, hey, I'm willing to sacrifice not living near where my family is or moving away from home. But everything has a price, and you got to decide what you want to pay for, which you want to pay for.
Michael, you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
I tell the kids all the time. I say, kids, I don't have any kids. I have one child, but let's just say I would say, kids, what you need to do out in Los Angeles is delay gratification. Mm-hmm. Can you delay gratification? Do you have to have a garage? Do you want a dog? Well, then you're not going to live in Los Angeles. You're living in the valley.
Yeah.
There's all these things. Do you need a washer dryer? You probably won't last out here very long because most people don't have washer dryers.
Right.
Do you need a dishwasher? Do you need air conditioning? What do you need? Because everything has a cost. So if you want to live in Los Feliz and be able to walk to 40 different restaurants, you can do that. But you might have old windows.
Yeah.
You might not have a parking place. So there's a price for everything. But when people say that, there's just no way you can do it, that's ridiculous. Yeah. There's always people in every city that clean the ditches. You know what I mean? Like, there's ditches in every city.
Right.
So there'll always be some place to live. That's my point. Let me ask you, you just recently started this podcast. Tell me what inspired you to do that? Because in one sense, it's like you're giving away all the tricks.
Yeah. Well, honestly, so I have a project that I'm working on that requires to have a big social media presence. And so I'm a private guy. I never had any of this. And so I go, all right, well, how do I grow my social media following? Well, just give away everything I know. Yeah. Just give it away.
Amazing.
And if you follow me, I'll tell you. So I post every day, like on Instagram and on TikTok.
Amazing.
It's free.
Yeah.
Here you go. All you got to do is follow me in exchange for all this knowledge.
Yeah, I think that's so smart. Another bit of knowledge I heard you talk about was be careful about writing for the script you want, the job you want, because it's kind of like almost a one-shot deal. You have one chance to make a difference. And if they read a pilot that is not in the genre of the show that you say you want to work on, is that what do you say that?
I didn't quite say that. I think you're kind of mixing up a couple, but I say both those things. Mostly I say, because people say, I want to sell my feature. I want to get more my TV show, my pilot. But it doesn't really work that way. Your pilot script is a calling card. And so it's a writing sample. So the writing has to be good. And it allows you to get in the door to either pitch a show or maybe have a producer farm out an idea to you that you work for. Because, it's just a sample. It's a writing sample.
I know what it was I heard you say. Let me backtrack for a second. You said that if you worked on a show and it was only for a year, be careful about putting that on your resume, because then that says to everybody, you only made it a year on that show. Why did they fire you? Yeah,
I don't like. You still. That's definitely true. I'm not sure about being the. It's not quite careful to put on your resume, but you're going to have to. You should put your credits on your resume, but you're going to have to answer to that. No one leaves a hit show on their own. Like, if you're on a hit, because I knew this happened to a young guy who I worked with, and he was on a hit show for 1 year, and everyone's like, "Oh, he was on this hit show." I'm like, "Yeah, but why was he fired then?" Yeah. And then it became pretty obvious why he was fired.
Yeah, I knew a guy that wrote on Seinfeld one season, and he still puts it all over his resume, and it's like, yeah, but dude, they had 10 or 11 seasons, so that's
so you have to answer that question. You have to be prepared to answer that question.
Yeah, that's tricky. And so how about the people that you have on your show? How are you finding these guys?
For the podcast or which show?
Yeah, on the podcast.
Oh, well, right now, so I have a co-host, and this guy who he's an aspiring writer, Phil, and he's been,
Phil Hunter?
Phil Hudson.
Phil Hudson, right?
Yeah,
right.
And so he's my co-host on this, and he kind of handles a lot of the nuts and bolts of the whole operation. And so we've talked about screenwriting from that perspective, like from the newbie and from someone who's been doing it a long time, and what my experience is and what his, and so that's kind of how we bounce off each other. He's
facilitating the show.
I guess so.
You are the star. You're shining.
I shouldn't even address him by name.
That's terrible. Now, I know you worked on Just Shoot Me Forever.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God. Now I'm getting old.
No, I mean, whatever. That show holds up. I'm sure it still airs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure
it was a great
does.
Experience. I love that show. It was a great experience.
I bet. Laura San Giacomo.
Laura San Giacomo. I just spoke with her a couple months ago. She's lovely.
Wonderful actress.
Yeah.
Holy cow. She continues to work and always is just great.
And she's the sweetest woman. She's good to know. She's lovely. Yeah.
Good to know. And then David Spade was on that, right?
Spade, and I wrote for him again on a show called Rules of Engagement a few years after that. Yeah.
Sure. He still continues to work, and he still continues to get his stuff out there. Yeah. And his hair is getting bigger.
Magnificent.
And grayer, and not grayer. He dyes it so much. He kind of looks one of these guys. He doesn't want to age, as it were.
Yeah. Not me, though.
Yeah. No, you look great, man. You look great. You're very handsome.
Oh, go on.
Are you working on a project as we speak?
My partner and I have a writing partner. So we are writing on a show called Tacoma FD, and that's been down, but that goes back up in January. I just got a call from the head writer. Hey, you ready? I'm like, yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, let me tell you why I know that show, because I play tennis here in LA a lot, and they shot over at Griffith Park at the tennis courts where I play, and I saw them last year, maybe 2 years ago. It was during COVID. Yeah. And everything was Tacoma, fire department and all the cop cars. I mean, it was all set, Yeah. But it made me laugh, and I'm like, I don't even think I know that show.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's about a fire department, hot firemen.
And in the rainiest city in the country. That's the premise. So, and we shoot it here in the driest city in the country.
And is this a dangerous thing to have a fire department in Tacoma, or is that kind of not really?
No, it's just more like, it rains so much there's not a lot of fires because it's always wet. So
why aren't they in Humboldt County or something?
Oh, I don't know. I don't ask those questions.
Well, I really like your podcast.
Oh, thank you.
It also breaks down the roles of the people that work in Hollywood, because there are so many people, and, a lot of people out in the world, they think there's a director and an actor, and then that's it. They don't even, if you say cameraman, they're like, oh yeah, that's right. There's got to be that. But they don't realize the smaller people on the set, whether they're, the lighting crew or the grips or whatever. And so there are so many people involved. So it's nice the way you broke it down. And specifically, I like the way you broke it down, like, if I bring a show, if I get my show on the air, for instance, let's just throw out my game show, Story Smash, the storytelling game show, which we play live at the Hollywood Improv every month. So that's a game show. I'm the creator. I've had this show for, over 11 years, and I'm the host. But if I sold it, it would be to a network or production company. No, it would be to a studio. Yeah. And from there, the studio hires the showrunner, and that's where you come in.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't know anything about game shows. But let's say your show is a sitcom, then that's what would happen.
Right, exactly. And then from there, the showrunner is the one who then hires, or at least recommends, the writers he wants to work with. Yes?
Yeah.
Did they hire the editors?
Yeah, and the directors. So in TV, in movies, like the director's the boss. The director's in charge. Right. It's a film by the director. The writer's not even welcome on the set.
That's right.
But in TV, the writer's the boss. The showrunner's the head writer, basically, and it's a writer's medium.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you said, on film sets, they don't even want the writer around.
No,
it's like, we are very possibly going to change your words, and we don't want to hear from you when we do. So just move out of the way. You've already passed the buck. You have. Yeah. You've already passed it on to somebody else, so you got to stay in your lane. I mean, that goes for everybody on set. Actors don't just jump out and say, oh, I have an idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Nobody cares if you have an idea.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Okay, so now I'm talking about my game show. Now, let's say I got a studio that wanted to produce my game show. Well, the first thing I would have to do personally, I think, as the producer, or excuse me, as the creator, is give up pretty much all my power. Like I might be a producer, but they're not going to let me host it. They're not going to let me host it. They're going to bring in Jane Lynch or Tiffany Haddish or somebody who already has quite a reputation and a group of followers. You know what I mean? If Jane Lynch said she would, she would MC my game show, well, that would be an honor. I mean, I would. Yeah. There's no way. So I would have to step back. Now, how far do I have to step back?
It depends. I mean, again, if this is a show, and I've had this before, where a writer sells a show, like a young writer, and they hire a showrunner to run it because, a TV show can cost $1 million per episode. So they're not going to trust someone who hasn't done it before with that kind of budget. And so they hire, people with more experience to run the show. And so usually those, you try to be respectful to the young writer and, you don't want to quash their dreams, but they understand who the boss is and they understand it's not theirs anymore. They've sold it. They got a bucket full of money in exchange.
Yeah, that's it. You get a bunch of money and then get out.
Well, they were still on the show. They don't have to get out, but get out of the way.
Get out of the way. In other words, if they said to me, Christine, we want to buy this show from you. Mm-hmm. And then I say, yeah, but I want to host it. And they say, no, Tiffany Haddish is going to host it. And then I go, well, I want to host it. Then they say, bye-bye. It was really nice meeting you, Miss Blackburn. Take care.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Right? Because they have to, it's all about money at the end of the day.
It's all about marketing too. So, it's easy to market a show with Jane Lynch on, as the host. People want to see her. So, yeah.
And then when they go to get Jane Lynch, they might find that she's with a certain agency. And then that agency is more than willing to give you Jane Lynch. However, they also have 2 writers they represent and they need work. Can you help me?
That's less likely. That's less likely, I think. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's less likely that an agent would work for the writers. I mean, they'll submit the writers, but they're not gonna. I wouldn't see them killing a deal, or they'll say, "Hey, how about these writers?" And you say no, and they'll be fine. They'd be okay with it.
I get it. Your chair is squeaking.
That's my back.
It is not. You're so funny. Well, listen, we're going to get over to your story in just a second. The Ghost That Saved Me. I'm very excited to hear that. I've had on other showrunners like Mark Brazil. Do you know Mark?
I know of him. We haven't worked together, though, yeah.
Yeah, and he did that 70s show. Mm-hmm. And I've had on Dan O'Shannon. Do you know Dan?
I don't, I haven't worked with him as well, but no, he's kind of a legend. He's a legend. He's a legend. I've had on Phil Rosenthal. He's a legend too. Yeah.
Yeah, these guys are all legends. It's unbelievable. Yeah. And yet nobody wants Story Smash. What is that?
I don't know. Yeah.
They're not game show writers, Christine.
Yeah.
You know what's funny about that is then I go over to the Game Show Network and I say, I got me a game show. It sells that every month. I air it on the podcast. Gets almost 10,000 downloads. The show is a hit.
Right.
Game Show Network, they say, oh, we don't make any new game shows.
Really?
We just use old game shows.
Huh.
No, they create the new match game, the new password, the new to tell the truth, the new...
See, I don't know anything about that market. I can't even tell you what to do. I don't know.
No, I know. It's a whole other world. It's interesting, though. And that's another thing we're learning from you. It is a different world, whether you write screenplays for movies or you're a sitcom guy like Dan O'Shannon. He's a sitcom guy.
Yeah.
Phil Rosenthal, sitcom guy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely, there's many.
And the comedy writers in TV know the comedy writers, but we don't necessarily know the drama writers in TV.
Mm-hmm. 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 I believe that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Do they ever blend?
It's unusual to. I mean, sometimes I know comedy writers who've made the bridge to drama writing, but it's not often, I guess.
Yeah. Are you a stand-up as well?
I did stand-up when I was in college, and then I decided, I'd rather write for comedians than I like to be tucked in bed by 10:15 every night.
Isn't that sweet? But, it used to be, I don't know about which sitcoms you're talking about, but I remember having friends that wrote on a lot of older shows like Veronica's Closet.
Oh, well, my wife was on Veronica's Closet.
Oh, is that right? What's her name?
Cynthia, it was Cynthia Mann at the time, and she was recurring on Veronica's Closet.
Oh, wow. Yeah. How neat. That was like the show with the stupidest premise of all time.
Well, it was like Victoria's Secret, basically.
No, I know, but if Kirstie Alley is the head of this Fortune 500 company, then she wouldn't be so stupid.
Oh, yeah, there's that.
You know what I mean?
There's that, yeah.
The premise was a problem. But my point is that I remember those writers' rooms. Mm-hmm. They would go till 3 a.m., 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And then it was just everybody was always getting yelled at, and there was a tremendous amount of tension.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And although they could get like any candy they wanted, just write it on the board, and then that candy will come.
Yeah.
I was, very impressed by that. Other than that, it seemed like a horrible schedule.
It could be a hard job if you're on a show like that. Yeah. Yeah.
And they all made a ton of money, but everybody was afraid. Everybody was scared. They're going to lose their job.
Yeah, there's that. There's also that.
It doesn't sound conducive to comedy writing.
It really depends on the tone of the show and the showrunner and what kind of interference you're getting from network. But if you're on a network show, you're going to get more interference. My partner and I have kind of moved to cable where the budgets are lower and you get a little more freedom. So that's nice.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see that. It's just interesting, to demand people be funny and then not let them sleep. Like they don't get to go home and then, be funny. No, funnier. And then everybody was always like,
and that's the job.
Happy and
I was on writing a show called King of the Hill on 9/11.
I love King of the Hill.
Great show. 9/11 hits. We all get the day off. Everyone's like, oh my God, the world's coming to an end. But the next day we had to go to work and we had to write comedy. And none of us wanted to write comedy. I mean, there was nothing funny for the next, 3.5 months. Yeah. But that's the job. You had to write comedy.
Yeah, that's interesting. Did you watch the HBO documentary about Brittany Murphy?
I haven't yet because I knew her and she was lovely. And I haven't yet. I haven't yet. No.
She was such a great actress. She played, was it Louise on King of the Hill? No, it was.
Was it Luann? Uncle Hank. Yeah, Uncle
Hank. She was so good and such a breath of fresh air on that show.
Yeah, lovely woman.
And I thought she was a wonderful, wonderful actress. I was kind of bummed when King of the Hill ended. There was no fanfare. It just went away.
And then they brought it back for a little bit too, though. They brought it back.
What do you know about that?
I was there from season, I want to say 5 to season 5 to 10 or something like that. And then it got canceled. And then my partner and I found work somewhere else. Then the show got it came back a couple of years later. We were, they asked us, but we were busy. We already had another job. But I think we did actually go back to write a couple of freelance episodes. So yeah. Yeah.
The show I watch now a lot that kind of replaced King of the Hill for me is Bob's Burgers.
Oh, yeah. A lot of King of the Hill writers on that. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Is that right?
Jim Dotrieve, who co-created it with Lauren Bouchard, he came from King of the Hill, and there's a lot of ex-King of the Hill writers who went there.
I should have known that. Yeah, it's very much the same tone. Incredibly funny. There's so many things. I mean, it's like a Simpsons where you can just look into jokes and they keep coming, and a lot of them you miss. Yeah, we watch a lot of that around here.
Yeah.
All right, well, listen, we're going to get over your story in just a second, but I did want to remind everybody that Story Smash, the storytelling game show, is live at the Hollywood Improv every single month. The next show, folks, New Year's Eve. That's right. We were supposed to be on Christmas, but because that's a Saturday, we're the third Saturday of the month, except Christmas, it's closed, which I don't know why, because I know a ton of people that would go out Christmas night. But nonetheless, it's close. So we're going to be out on New Year's Eve night at the Hollywood Improv, 7:30. Come on down, guys. We've been having so much fun. It's ridiculous. Danny Zucker, of course, is always there and playing Capatch.
Oh, funny.
And you know those guys, right?
I know Dan. I know Danny because we worked together on Just Shoot Me. And Blaine did a guest spot on a show called Maron that my partner and I ran. So yeah, I know all those guys.
Right. Yeah. Hey, you and your partner, you ran Maron. You were the showrunners.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty impressive, man. That was a very good show.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was great, and that was not a lot of, it was low budget, so very little interference, which is why I think the show was so good. We got to do what we wanted. Yeah, it was kind of like under the radar, but I like that as well, and I never miss Mark Maron. I listen to him twice a week, and I have been for 11 years. So yeah. He's definitely one of my inspirations. He's terrific, yeah.
All right, you guys, he's here right now. Michael Jamin. He has written on many television series, including Just Shoot Me, like we said, and King of the Hill. Also Beavis and Butthead, Out of Practice, Rules of Engagement, Lopez, Tacoma FD, like you just said, and Wilfred. And you've also served as executive producer and showrunner on Maron and Rhett and Link's Buddy System. I don't know Rhett and Link's Buddy System.
You don't know these guys, but they were big YouTube stars. They are huge on YouTube, huge. And they have like a morning show, and they kind of do silly things. They sit in oatmeal or whatever, and they're two best friends, and they have like a giant following, and their following is so big that YouTube gave them money to have a sitcom. And so we ran their sitcom season 2. And these guys, they're lovely, hilarious, wonderful people. They really are great guys. And I remember the first time we met them, they're like, because we hadn't heard of them, honestly. We had to look them up, right? And like, you won't believe this, but like, we can't go to Disneyland because like we get swarmed at Disney. Like there are certain age groups, it's niche, there's certain people that know these and they're huge in that circle.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I'll have to look them up for sure. Because at first I thought maybe it was a cartoon.
No, it's live action, and it's a fun little show that we did, yeah.
Oh, good. I'm going to look for that. Rhett and Link's buddy system.
Yeah.
And like we said, you've got a new podcast called Screenwriters Need to Hear This. And honestly, like if you are a screenwriter out there and you don't listen to this podcast, you have to ask yourself, do I really want to be a screenwriter?
Yeah, do I really want it? Right.
I mean, in other words, sometimes there's just like so much information you can get out there. So much information you can get out there. And if you don't take advantage of it, it's like perhaps you don't really want to.
Well, I say that even about when I post on Instagram and TikTok, I make these videos. They're 1 to 3 minutes long.
Yeah,
it's like, and if you don't have time to watch that and you want to be a screenwriter, then it's not going to happen. Like if you can't find 2 minutes a day, it's not going to happen.
You give out really good practical tips on Instagram in these quick little videos, and you're exactly right. I say that all the time. I mean, there's certain hoops you have to jump through, and there's certain things you just need to know. And if you're not even willing to look into it, it's just
Yeah.
I don't think you want it.
You don't want
I
it.
teach podcasting now and then, and when I teach podcasting, I tell everybody, okay, it's not a problem, man. All you got to do is pick up your cell phone, just like right now, pick up your cell phone and record a podcast episode. It doesn't go anywhere. Nobody's going to hear it. But do that. Do it 5 times.
Right.
If you can't do that 5 times, well,
it's not going to happen.
maybe, because there's so much consistency to all of this. It's consistency and it's stick-to-itiveness and then it still might not happen.
Right.
So at least have the leg up to get information. You can get that information, like I said, over at the new podcast, Screenwriters Need to Hear This. And you can also find Michael at his website, michaeljamin.com, and also over there on Twitter at Jamin Writer. All right, you guys, wherever you are, put your hands together for Michael Jamin.
Oh, thank you. This story basically, it takes place many years ago when I first was breaking into Hollywood, and I had a job as an assistant to the executive producer of a TV show, and she was like a lovely woman. She dressed like a rock star, with a black jeans and tight, and she was kind of like a rock star. And I was her assistant, and I used to have to. I had 3 job responsibilities. Basically, I had to answer. I had to bring her lunch. I had to answer a phone that never rang, and I had to make coffee in a pot that I only said I washed. And then occasionally I'd have to, we go in the studio. We'd walk. It was on Warner Brothers, and I had to carry an umbrella over her head because she didn't want the sun's rays to hit her. And so that was my job. I was her little lackey, and and she looked after me, and I looked after her. I was very protective of her. And
what was the name of the show? That
show was called. At the time, it was a show called It Had to Be You, which was Faye Dunaway and Robert Urich. Yeah, Faye Dunaway in a sitcom. She played it, yeah. And so that was I was their assistant, and her and her writing partner, and they were wonderful people. But I didn't really as much as I begged to have that job, I had a really bad attitude because you're so close to what you want. You're so close to being you're so close to the action, the sitcom writer, but you're not one of them. You're far away, actually. I mean, you feel like you're miles away. You feel like you're never going to get there. And I just broken up with this girlfriend that I loved, and I found out she didn't love me. And she broke up with me. And so that was I was in this space where I was basically a ghost myself, where I was living in the past, but not in the present. And I was just haunting the fucking place. And I was angry that I was sad and angry. And the phone would ring, on their desk. What do you want? I was the worst assistant ever. And so, but one day my boss asked, she was going away, and she asked if I would house sit for her. And she had a house in Los Feliz that you're talking about, beautiful old English tutor. And these English tutors are, they're dark inside, they're creepy, they're beautiful, but it's a little scary inside. And she had me come in to give her the reason why she wanted me to house it was to give her cat Ramon subcutaneous IV shots to keep him alive. Like I don't want to give this cat shots. And so she had to teach me how to do that. And I was like, oh my God, this is just I'm not the one to be doing this. So she goes away. And then like that first night I go into the house to stay there for the weekend. And already I'm just getting like the chills. There's something about this place that's just giving me the chills. And it's dark. And like every time I walk past the living room, it's dark in the house. So I'm like, I better turn on a light in the living room because at night I'm going to be terrified of the living room. I think something was wrong. Something just felt wrong about the place. But I didn't want to turn on the light because then I would have to turn it off later. But I didn't want to be dark. So the whole thing was driving me crazy. And then, all right, so I take all the syringe and all the stuff the medicines upstairs to find Ramon. And Ramon, the cat, was always where she said he would be, which is underneath the bed, her master bed. That's where this cat, and I go to find him there, and that's where he is. And I pull him out, and he's not scared of me. So why is he hiding? Like, why is he hiding under the bed if he's not scared of me? What is he scared of? It's not me. I give him the shot. The cat's sweet, purring. He's terrified, but the cat's terrified of something. And this is freaking me out. So, I spend the rest of the evening there, and I'm getting ready to turn off the lights and go back upstairs. And I kind of just sense something, and something compelled me to turn around. And I've never, this is the honest, something compelled me to turn around. And from the corner of my eye, then I see it. There was a dark shadow slowly moving up the staircase. And the blood drained from me. And it was not like I just missed it. No, I watched it. I watched as it kind of just morphed its way up the staircase. And I was just dead inside.
Was this a shadow of a man or
it was amorphous?
Or was it a cloak?
It was amorphous. It was like changing shapes. So it wasn't like, a shadow. It was a moving, changing shadow going up this. And so at the time, this is before cell phones, and I had only one number committed to memory, and that was this number of my ex-girlfriend, the girl who broke my heart. But I'm not going to stay in this house by myself. I'm scared out of my mind. So I call her up, and meanwhile, I'm worried. I'm like, I'm going to say, I say, hey, it's me. And immediately I'm like, oh, Jesus, she's not even going to know who me is. Like, what a putz, But she did remember, of course. And I told her what happened. She was like, well, do you want me to stay with you? And I'm thinking, well, that's all I ever wanted was for you to stay with me. But so she was very sweet. She gets in her car, and half hour later, she's over at this house, and it's a Friday or Saturday night. And we're just sitting in the kitchen. And we're talking, and it was always very amicable with her. It wasn't like, hey, we hate each other. That's yelling. It was just more like she just wanted to move on, basically. And we just spent the night kind of just talking in the kitchen, and it was weird to see her, how much of her had changed since the last time I talked. Because it was one of these relationships where I was, I called her once in a while, and every time I called her, I was reminded why I loved her and why I shouldn't love her, And so calling her was never a good thing. It was not good for me. So when I called her on this night, it was honestly because I had no one else to call. And so we were hanging out in the kitchen, and just little things were about her which struck me. Like she had changed. Like little things struck me. Like she'd reference people that I didn't know, or like hobbies that she had taken up that I had no idea about, or music that she was listening to, and she even had a new tattoo. And so it was just like this girl that I had fallen in love with was kind of slowly kind of fading away, and we just spent the whole night talking. And part of it I felt was because I was afraid to go to sleep, but part of it was because I knew in the morning it would be over. And so in the morning came, I thanked her for staying over. I walked her to her car, and I basically thanked her. I thanked her for giving me this one final kindness, and she thanked me for letting her. And then that was the end of it. She drove off. And then,
so where did you guys sleep?
Well, we didn't really sleep. We kind of stayed up. We kind of stayed up because it was.
Did you ever address the ghost with her?
With my old girlfriend?
Yeah. Did you?
Oh yeah, I told her what was going on. I was like, "There's a fucking ghost here."
Did you go look around the house?
Yeah, but we didn't see anything, and maybe she thought I was crazy, right? I mean, I'm not sure if she believed me. So then back at work, a couple of days later, my boss was like, "Hey, how'd it go?" And I was almost embarrassed to tell her, but I could kind of see it in her eye, like, what am I going to say? But I could see it in her eye. It wasn't like, "Hey, how'd it go?" It was more like, "Hey, how'd it go?" Like she was almost worried about asking me how it went. And so I confided in her. I was like, hey, I saw something really weird. And then she was like, yeah, you saw the ghost. I'm like, what do you mean I saw the ghost? She says, well, she's had people stay in her house and they've heard noises from the end of the hall, but no one was there. And they just weird things happen, like stuff like that in cold spots. And she said herself that she had, on more than one occasion, had woken up in her bed, paralyzed. She couldn't move. And that there was a man standing at the end of her bed in a tracksuit from the 1970s. And that he didn't want to hurt her. She didn't feel scared like this guy's going to hurt me. But he was there. And she told me this, and there's just a blood drained out of my, I was like, oh, God, that's yes, okay, I'm not making this up. And a couple weeks, well, it was actually a couple months later, and, again, I'm trying to become a TV writer. And a couple months later, they had taken over a new show as showrunners on a show called Lois and Clark. It was a Superman show. And my partner and I went in to pitch them. They said, hey, could we pitch you? And it's kind of a big deal to be able to pitch a showrunner, and especially when you're a no one. And they said, yeah, of course. They let us pitch, her and her partner. And we wound up selling an episode of Lois and Clark. And that was like my first break. That was my big break, right? And I was so thrilled, and I wanted to tell someone, of course. But the first person I wanted to tell was, of course, my ex-girlfriend. And I was in my crappy little bedroom in West Hollywood, my little, studio. And I pick up the phone, and I'm going to call her. And then I set it down. And I just thought, I thought of that ghost. I thought of, I'm doing something that this ghost can't do. I'm just letting go.
Wow. Okay. Back up. Why didn't you say to that lady, the owner of the house, like, what the hell, man? Why wouldn't you tell me that?
She's
why
my
would
boss.
you think? I know,
No,
but why didn't she say?
I did. I said that. And she goes, because you wouldn't have stayed if I had told you that. And I'm like, well, yeah, I would not have stayed. I would not have taken care of Ramon.
Exactly.
But that's why she didn't tell me. But she made up for it by giving me an episode. So,
did you ever find out if there had been a murder there or something? Because there are definitely haunted houses in Los Feliz, and it usually is like a murder from the 40s or 50s and all that.
No, but I've driven by that house since, on the occasion that I have, I felt like knocking on the door and asking the owner, "Hey, do you know what's going on in here? Have you experienced?" But I don't know. I just felt like, well, I don't know if that's my place. You
could put the name in the computer. The address in the computer. It'll come up right away if it's like
if it's haunted.
Yeah, one of those landmark houses. Because there's like the murder house on Glendower, and there's this house and that house. Even the Black Dahlia house is right here on Franklin.
Right.
So there are the tales of those stories. But I just cannot believe she didn't tell you.
I can.
Knew.
She knew I wouldn't go.
Unbelievable. Have you ever gone to that house again?
No, only to drive by, and I've since talked with her, and she was lovely. She's a wonderful woman. I would.
Yeah, and the ex-girlfriend, did she see or observe anything?
I don't think she did. No.
Yeah.
No.
I just feel like it's interesting that she did make changes and things were different about her, but they weren't attractive. They were good changes. Or did you just think, I don't want to repeat this relationship?
No, it was more that she was changing, and she wasn't the person that I had fallen in love with. She had changed the way people are supposed to change. And I just noticed that, like, it's not like getting back together was an option. Like, she didn't want to, and I really didn't want to either, because she wasn't right for me. If someone doesn't love you the way you want to be loved, you have to let go of them.
Right. I wonder why then your first thought was to tell her.
I had no one else to call. I literally had no phone number. This is before cell phones.
You had no other phone memorized.
No, I had no phone number memorized. I had no one else member to call. Yeah.
That is so funny. It's true. I still only have like my number, my daughter's number, and like my home phone number in Pittsburgh. It's impossible to remember phone numbers now, for sure. Okay, so how do you give a shot to a cat?
Oh, well, it's subcutaneous, so it doesn't have to go into the muscle. It has to go under the skin. So you pick up the back of their neck and you kind of just you cram it in there.
I didn't know what that word meant.
I didn't know either until she taught me.
Yeah, and then you said another word I didn't know either. So, boy, you are such a writer.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what that word was.
I forget too, but it was another good word. You've got good language. Yeah, I got to tell you, man, house sitting can be good and bad. You know, it's so nice if you get a cool house, or I mean, not that I've done it that many times, but I'll visit somebody that's house sitting, and it's like, yeah, I'm house sitting at such and such house, and there's a pool and there's a thing, and you know. It's so fun, and I can't believe I'm doing this. In fact, I just heard from a guy today who said he's house sitting in Hawaii for 3 weeks, house sitting a cat in Hawaii. They're flying him to Hawaii, they're paying him, and he's going to watch a cat. It's like, wow. Yeah. That's a nice situation. Yeah. Nice situation right there.
Yeah.
Did you ever think about writing about a ghost, Michael Jamin?
Well, one of my projects I'm working on is a collection of personal essays, and this story is actually from that collection. It's an excerpt from that collection. So yeah, I pick out all these moments that I think they're entertaining and are deep, and I write about them.
I know as a child, my favorite episodes every year of every sitcom was the Halloween episode. Mm-hmm. You know, anytime people were in costume, and they were always the best costumes. I mean, costumes like nobody was in that stupid plastic mask with the little tongue that you could like stick your tongue out. Nobody had that.
I had a story about that. I wrote about that. It's one of my stories as well. Yeah.
What is about wearing a plastic mask?
Yeah, I was Casper. It was my first Halloween costume. Yeah, that big plastic mask. And
did you cut your tongue?
Well, you would basically pools of condensation would form under the mask, and you just gurgle in your own spit.
I remember that as a kid. I also remember as a kid always having dirty feet, and I didn't care, because I'm a kid, and I remember like my feet would get like all dirty and sweaty, and I would slide them in and out of my flip-flops. Like you could see the dirt. It was like, kids they're just different. Yeah. They're different beasts, aren't they? You said you have 2 kids? I got two beautiful girls, yeah. And where are they in school?
One is at UCLA, and she's loving it there. And the other is at Cooper Union in Manhattan.
Oh, man, that's exciting. That must be a good feeling.
She was in Carnegie Mellon for a while in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, sure. That's a very popular school. Yeah. My daughter is, talk about people getting a leg up. Here's what's something people have to realize out there, like people who want to be cameramen and DPs. My daughter's 14, and she's already in high school to be a DP.
Is she at the School of Performing Arts?
Yeah, the Locks.
My daughter graduated there.
Oh, how nice! Yeah. That's so exciting. And which field was she in? Dance
she was
or theater?
Visual arts. But the funny thing is, so my wife owns a line of girls' clothing called Twirly Girl, and a couple of years ago we wanted to make a commercial, and so I know how to write, know how to produce and direct. So I went to LACSA, and I went to the Cinematic Arts Department. I went to the head of the department there. I go, I want a crew. I'm going to pay these kids, and I'm going to teach them how to do it, but I'm going to pay them. Give me your best director. He pulls this kid right out of the class. He's a 16-year-old kid. I go, this is what I tell him what I want him to do, and he puts together a crew. He wound up shooting like 5 commercials with these kids.
That is so exciting. Oh, my gosh. You must have made his life.
Oh, yeah. And he loves it. We did good stuff. You could watch his commercials on the homepage of twirlygirlshop.com. You scroll down and you can find there.
Adorable. The school, I feel so lucky that my daughter got in there, and she's studying cinema arts. Mm-hmm. And they're making films with cameras that like...
Red cam, yeah. And not only that...
in the world can, because they get this equipment. They get this funding, for the cinema arts department. And so then they buy all these cameras and this equipment. And like my daughter's like, I'm like, how was school, honey? And she's like, we talked about sandbags for 1 hour.
These kids, but they're more prepared than like if you were to go into USC film school. Like they're already at that level when they graduate.
Of course. Yeah, no, it's really exciting. And a lot of them get great choices of colleges like I guess your daughter did.
Yeah. Well, how do you like that? Good.
Well, I am super happy that your daughters are so accomplished and they're doing well. And I'm happy to meet you because you're very interesting.
And good looking, but it's a podcast. We're going to sell that. Maybe people have to imagine that.
What's that?
My good lookingness.
No, you are a good looking
This is
guy.
the perfect venue for me, radio.
You guys head over to michaeljamin.com. You'll see for yourself. Michael Jamin, Jamin. And then also check out his new podcast, Screenwriters Need to Hear This. It's quite interesting. Even if you're not a writer, if you want to be in Hollywood, it's an interesting show because, like I said, you really do go through the intricacies and the amount of people it takes. I mean, it's more than a village. I mean, it takes so much collaboration. Mm-hmm. And your podcast really really speaks to that.
Oh,
so it's
thank
very
you.
interesting.
And thank you for having me on. This is an honor. You have a great bunch of guests. I mean, honestly, you put together a wonderful show over the years. It's amazing who you've had on. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate
I'm
it.
impressed.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I assume you're speaking of Carol Baskin.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's
a get. Yeah.
You know what? She was great. She was so great. And everybody that listened to the show, I got not so many, but let's say like 6 letters, 7 letters of people saying like, she wasn't wacky at all. She wasn't weird or confusing. She was smart and spoke clearly and doing good work. So
I haven't seen season 2 yet. Have you?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Tiger King. I haven't, but I know that she's suing them because she didn't sign off on that. And,
okay.
You can follow her on Facebook at Big Cat Rescue, right? So it's Carol Baskin, Big Cat Rescue. And they have live cameras, and I found myself checking it all the time just to see these cats. And it's just so interesting. And she has put together this beautiful sanctuary. I mean, it definitely looks more like a park in Tampa, Florida. And they've got these cameras out, and they turn the corner and they say, "Oh, we're going over to see Macy. Macy, what you doing over there? Hey, you want some meal, whatever." And I'm looking at it like I'm just transfixed. I'm like, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Tigers.
Yeah, tigers. And she has ligers, which isn't even a thing unless somebody forces a lion and a tiger to mate. And
who's got that job?
Well, in that case, like Carol said, they're more likely to kill each other than they are to actually have a, have a successful live birth.
You need a line fluffer.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't want that job.
All right, you guys, this has been a blast. One more time, make sure you follow Michael over there on Twitter at mjaminwriter.
Or it's actually at michaeljamin.com. At Michael Jamin is where I really post on Instagram and TikTok. Twitter is where I'm snarky and mean to
I love Twitter.
Political figures.
But don't you love Twitter because it's so smart? It's smart. Twitter.
But I'm not really on that much. If you want screenwriting advice, then you follow me on Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah, that's right. Like you said, Instagram, and it's at Michael Jamin Writer. That's right, Michael Jamin Writer. All right, you guys, one more time on behalf of the very talented Michael Jamin, thank you again so much.
Thank you for having me.
My name is Christine Blackburn, saying, make it a story-worthy week.
Thanks for joining us on the Storyworthy Podcast. We'll be back next week with all new stories. Subscribe to Storyworthy on iTunes and visit the Storyworthy website at storyworthypodcast.com.
You're finally at that hot new spot, the one your friends keep raving about, sitting across from your date. It's going...
Another round?
Really well. And that dish you've been dying to try, oh, it's headed your way. You can smell it, hear it sizzling fresh off that skillet as it comes closer, and served. Go ahead, enjoy. After your phone sneaks a bite first. When you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.
Have you ever lifted a piece of furniture and found the carpet underneath looks brand new, while the rest of it looks, well, not brand new? That's when you realize you need new carpeting. At the Home Depot, we have a wide selection of all the top brands. Best of all, we'll install it for you. And even better than best of all, we install it free. So all you need to do is choose from our hundreds of styles and colors. Start your installation today at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Minimum purchase of $4.99. Exclusions apply. U.S. only. See store for details.